my beautiful scientists. I'm sorry I'm not with you there today, but we're going to learn about macromolecules. This is a really cool topic, and I hope you like it. So, to start with, the question is, what is a macromolecule? Kind of, get used to breaking words down. Okay, so macro, I'm going to get a pen, hang on. The term macro, this prefix right here, means large, larger than micro, obviously. And molecule, you guys all know what a molecule is, right? So it's something that has more than one type of element bonded together. So these are really large molecules with lots of atoms. Now, they're also called organic. And what does organic mean? A lot of you guys are probably thinking, like, oh, it means whole foods type food. No, when it comes to biology and chemistry, organic has a very specific term, and it means that it contains carbon. So a molecule that is carbon is considered organic. Now, these macromolecules we're going to learn about have both carbon as their main element, but then they can also have hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and lots of other elements. But for the most part, C, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Those are probably the most common. And when you think about your cells, if you were to take your cells apart and look at what makes up most of the mass of every cell in your body, it's going to be macromolecules. And so these are really important when it comes to biology and life. So let's learn a little bit more about them. What I want you, sorry, I'm kind of struggling here. What I want you to know about macromolecules, okay, is how they're built. So you need to be able to identify the building blocks of each type of macromolecule. So we're going to learn about 4. We're going to learn about carbohydrates. Unfortunately, this is my favorite food. I say unfortunately because it's not the greatest for you, but these are the sugars, right? So if you look here, you've got fructose, which is fruit sugar, lactose, which is milk sugar. Sucrose is probably what you're used to thinking of when you think of sugar. That's like table sugar. And all carbohydrates have this basic molecular formula. And what's different between each of these is the multiplier of this. So if I have, for example, 6 times this, then I would get C6H12, because I would do 6 times 2, and then O6. Now, some of you might say, hey, that sounds familiar. And it should. It's glucose, right? So this is what is found, that should be a 6, in cellular respiration and in photosynthesis. So you can see that just adding a multiplier gives you the different carbohydrates. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll do the carbon rings as an actual ring. If you look at this is called a hexose, or it has 6 sides to it, hexagon. And everywhere that thing bends to make those 6 sides, that's a carbon. We just don't draw the carbons because we know what it is. This right here that you're looking at is a disaccharide. Di, the prefix di, means 2. And saccharide is Latin, I believe, for sweet. We use it in molecular biology to mean sugar. So when you look at a disaccharide, it's telling you it's made up of 2 sugars. So it's made up of a glucose and a fructose. That's what table sugar is. Now, I want you to notice something about the ending of each of these. What do you notice? Look at the ending of each one of these. And hopefully you notice they all end in the ending ose. And that is correct. Pretty much all sugars will end in the ending ose. So if you see something that says ose, you can assume it's a carbohydrate. Now, we are going to go in a lot more detail with these, but I just want to introduce you to them. The next one is lipids, which are fats, oils, and steroids. When we get into cells, we're going to talk about cellular membranes. And cell membranes are made up of this type of lipid. It's called a phospholipid. But fats are really interesting. You can have triglycerides. Those are the things that you get into your blood from your diet. And if they get too high, then you have heart disease. Phospholipids are important. I mean, fats are very important in your diet. It's just that you have to have the right ratio of good to bad fats. And we're going to talk about that. Next, we have nucleic acids. This is DNA and RNA. So here's a beautiful picture of DNA. RNA we're going to learn about is a single strand. DNA is a double strand. But we're going to learn about what the building blocks are, what they do. And then finally, one of my favorites, proteins. It's not my favorite to eat, but you have enzymes, and we're going to talk a lot about enzymes. And there's not a single reaction in your body that occurs that doesn't require enzymes. And so they're super important. So those are the 4 macromolecules you need to know. And we're going to go into great detail with each of them. So carbs, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. Okay. So now let's talk about real quick about how they're built, because all of these macromolecules are built somewhat similarly. And it has to do, I like to compare it to Legos, but let's look at some of our terms here, okay? We have these things called monomers. So a monomer is like a single Lego block. This is in all 4 of them, they have different monomers, but I'm kind of confusing myself here. In proteins, okay, there's a monomer, and those monomers get put together, and that creates the protein, okay? So a monomer, think about this. Mono means 1, right? So that is a single building block. Then those bond together through chemical reactions to create polymers. And the prefix poly means many. So you can have macromolecules that are built, like proteins, for example, can have tens of thousands of monomers in a single protein. So these all get built together, right? So we have monomers, which is your single building block. That's your single Lego. You put all those Legos together, you get a polymer, okay? And understand that when we get into each of the macromolecules in more detail, you will need to be able to identify the monomer because that's kind of important when it comes to biology. So let's practice a little bit. Are you ready? Let's start with this question. So pause the video, go ahead and answer this question on your worksheet. But the question says, how many monomers are found in the polymer shown below? Pause the video. Okay, how'd you do? So I'm going to look at this monomer and notice that the monomer has 2 white circles and 1 black circle. So I need to count that as my single building block. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 monomers. So your answer should be 4. How'd you do? Hopefully good. One more question to practice. True or false? Monomers are built of many polymers. What do you think? Pause the video, write it down in your guided notes. This is false, and I hope everybody got that. It's backwards, right? Monomers, you can't really see the blue. Monomers are the single building block, and they build polymers. So let's take a look at this picture. This is a polysaccharide. If you look, we've got this is actually a reaction, but here we have a single sugar. Notice the plus in the middle. So this is like a little chemical reaction. We're adding 2 sugars together to create a disaccharide. So monomer and a monomer equals a polymer. So this is false. All right, so you guys have a web quest to work on once you're done with this video. It is on Canvas. You can work in groups, but I will know if you divide and conquer. You guys need to know this information, all of the information, and so it does not help you to divide and conquer. You really need to kind of just get through it yourself. You can work in groups though, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks, everybody.